Hello, welcome to Christianity Explained. As you guys know, uh, artificial intelligence and and chat all the way. But should Christians really be worried about it? Well, before I let my friend introduce uh, something chat says, I wanted to throw up a little bit of scripture here. Believe it or not, the Bible actually does talk about something that suspiciously sounds like artificial intelligence. And it was written 2,000 years ago. This is from Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 15, New King James Version. Well, funny thing is, when I read that originally, I didn't think much of it, but apparently uh, they're not alone. Have you folks ever heard of Arthur C. Clarke and H.G. Wells, and more importantly, and very relevant, Dr. Isaac Asimov? Asimov talked about artificial intelligence. He did, unless you never heard of iRobots and all those wonderful things, artificial intelligence. Never mind the movie. And yet these wonderful secular prophets, by the way, they were atheists who had enough sense to recognize the potential harm and danger. And it seems that we're not the only one. So buckle your seatbelt, as my friend Randy and I get into. Randy, I think you had something to share. You want me to
Yes.
bring it up?
Well, first of all, one of the things we have to understand about Bible prophecy is it isn't always a direct statement. Um, One of the reasons the book of Revelation is written the way it is because they were facing a real and immediate danger from the Roman Empire. And actually, when you think about it, the conditions that led up to the writing of the book of Revelation is that the Apostle John was in exile by
Mm.
the Roman government on the island of Patmos. And so, just like today, everybody talking about disinformation and misinformation
Mhm.
and everything like this. Well, they had the same thing back then. It was just in handwriting. It wasn't on the digital platforms like we have today.
Mhm.
And so the apostle John, when he wrote the book of Revelation, he had to write it in figurative language. He had to use signs and symbols to represent what he was trying to tell the people. And the people he was writing to, of course, were familiar with the Old Testament, and they were able to see. So that's why you'll see a lot of references in Revelation.
Oh yeah.
But I'm with Barry here when I read that the power of the first of all, Antichrist is not just a person. Antichrist is a spirit. Okay. So it's more than just one individual. Yes, there will be an individual called the Antichrist. But the Apostle John wrote that even now, and that's back 2,000 years ago, he said there are many Antichrists.
Mm.
Okay. So even though there's going to be one, it was all going to come together with one Antichrist, there's many Antichrists.
Mm.
So now, this verse that he's talking about in particular, uh, he has an image made. You have the Antichrist, you have the false prophet, and then you have an image. Now, an image is not the thing itself, but something that represents it. So this image is going to represent, and then power is given to this image to speak. I mean, how would the apostles and the people that lived back in that day, how would they be able to describe the internet? How would they be able to describe digital technology? How would they be? I mean, to them, it would seem like magic. I don't know who remember who the person was, but there's somebody that said that any technology that is advanced enough seems like magic to the people that came before it. And I don't remember who said that, but that's true. You know, back in that day, they wouldn't have any idea to understand the internet or to understand artificial intelligence or, any of these things. And um, what we're facing right now with artificial intelligence and that sort of thing, these warnings that are going out about it that people are trying to say is, how can I say it? They're trying to get ahead of the curve. They're trying to get the warning out early. Because right now, the only thing that artificial intelligence can really do is respond to us. We are going to look here in a minute at like ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
4, and the thing is that right now you have to type in a question, you have to ask it something, and then it responds based on what you ask it. And then we can get into a little bit more of that here in a minute. But what they're trying to warn us about is that as it increases in capability, as memory gets bigger, more data is able to be stored, more data is able to be
Mm.
manipulated, that it'll get to the place that it doesn't need us to ask it anything any longer.
Oh yeah.
That it will be so advanced in its capabilities that it'll do things on its own instead of just. And some people might say, well, that's ridiculous, Randy. That can never happen. I'll tell you what, if you have a computer, you have one of these, it's already happening.
Oh yeah.
It's in a different form, but it's
Mm.
already happening. If you open up a computer and you have Windows or you have Linux,
Yeah.
that is an operating system. And basically, what it does is it just calls itself over and over and over and over and over again until
Mm.
you enter a command to make it stop. And the fear and the danger with artificial intelligence is that it'll be so good at running itself
Mm.
that, number one, it doesn't need us to ask it anything anymore. Number two, we won't be able to tell it to stop.
Mm.
That's where the danger lies, I believe.
Hi folks. This is Barry. That was just part one of an hour long video. When I reviewed it, it's packed. So there's a lot more. The dangers of misinformation and a whole bunch of other stuff. Thought this might be a little bit more bite sized. Be on the lookout for two videos, part two and the hour long for those of you who have no problem with such content. Hey, please be sure to subscribe and like this video and see you in part two.